Hey, welcome to the MIDI show. In this video, I'll break down my very first live techno jam. I'll walk you through the hardware setup, the connections, and show you some creative tricks I used in my first live experiment. By the way, if you haven't seen that jam yet, I think it's worth watching, so it will all make more sense. The link for that is in the description. So, it is a very super simple setup, and that's on purpose because I think it's better to have fewer toys and really know them well, and only after you have pushed them to their limits does it make sense to upgrade. So let's jump into it.
Let's start with the hardware. First, the Kaossilator. Its output goes through this cable into the stereo channel on the mixer. I mainly use it as a drum machine in the track and also for some transition effects. The other main player is the Minilogue XD. Its output goes through this cable into another stereo channel on the mixer. I use this synth from basically all the melodic parts of the track, like pads, bassline and the lead theme. Also on the table, this reverb pedal, which is part of the setup too. It's connected to the mixer through the send and return ports. I can control how much of the effect is applied to each channel using these red FX knobs. Another key part of the setup is this looper pedal under the table here. It lets me layer the different parts of the track on top of each other. It's connected like this. The main output of the mixer goes into the left and right inputs of the looper. Then the looper's outputs go straight into my audio interface, so I can record the whole jam in high quality directly into the computer. The monitor output from the audio interface goes into this small hi-fi amplifier, which drives these two speakers. So while recording, I can also hear everything I'm playing in real time. Alright, so let's take a look at what needs to be set up before I can actually start playing the track. So first of all, since there is no sync signal, the best I can do is to manually set both ins to the same BPM. For this track that was 105 BPM. This way they are at least somewhat synced as long as I start each part precisely enough. Since I use the Kaossilator as a kind of drum machine, I prepared a simple kick loop in its internal looper. To make sure it hits exactly on every quarter note, I used its built-in gate system before recording the kick loop, which triggers sounds precisely in quarter steps. On the Minilogue, I also set the tempo to 105 BPM and prepared the patches for each layer. And I also pre-programmed the melodies and the bassline into its built-in step sequencer. Okay, the track starts with a string layer, and since the sustained chords have a long release and reverb tail, it's hard to tell where the loop should end. So I couldn't start and stop the loop recording precisely. To solve this, I used the metronome on my phone set to 105 BPM playing in my ear until I laid down the kick layer on the looper. So from the very start I hear like this 1, 2, 3, 4 and boom! The pad sequence starts. After that I triggered the bassline sequence. The cool thing with the Minilogue is that you can set it to start the sequence from whatever note you press. So to keep this video from being an hour long, I won't go into all the tiny details, but as you can see, the track was built by layering parts onto the looper pedal one by one. For the break or bridge sections, I paused the loop playback and used the pre-recorded kick loop from the Kaossilator to keep the groove going. During those movements I played some variations on one of the synth. And to make the transitions as smooth as possible, I added some white noise effects between the sections. That's basically how I put the track together, and I'm trying to keep it short so it doesn't turn into a bedtime story. But I've got a few creative tricks to share that might be useful, no matter what gear you are using. So here's a little trick to add some musical tension. even with a simple one-track looper. For example, in this jam I recorded the snare as the last layer, just so I could use the undo and redo function to kind of mute it. Right before I bring the lead melody, I undo the snare, and once the lead is in, I redo it back onto the loop. That little drop and comeback adds a nice energy boost to the beat. Another trick I used here, if your synth lets you assign parameters to the joystick, you can really bring a basic sequence to life. Just moving the thing around can add a lot of vibe. Since we are talking about sequencers, here's a little old school trick I used in this jam. I wanted to turn the 16-step sequence into something that feels like 32 steps. So what I did was simply halve the global tempo and used an arpeggiator set to double speed. That way each step takes twice as long, making the whole thing feel twice as long, even though it's technically still just 16 steps. And finally, here is a little Minilogue XD specific tip. This tiny paper here, it's taped on for a reason. I always write down the number of the last slot I saved a patch to. Why? Because the Minilogue doesn't warn you if you are about to overwrite an existing patch. So if you forget which slot you last used, you might accidentally erase something you wanted to keep. This little trick saved me a lot of headaches, so I thought it's worth sharing with fellow Minilogue XD users. One last thing I haven't mentioned yet is the reverb pedal. I saved it for the end for a reason. By now, you have seen how even a simple track can involve a lot of layers. And that might raise the question, how do you make all of this feel like one coherent sound? Well, part of the answer is the reverb. Both synths go through the same reverb unit, and that shared space helps glue the whole mix together. It creates a sense of depth and makes everything blend more organically.
So, to wrap things up, not having any sync signal is So, to wrap things up, not having any sync signal in this setup make things very tricky and challenging. I believe in a live situation playing a set like this would be too risky. There is just too much room for obvious mistakes. But it's a great way to practice not only the timing, but the mindset of how you can create a full live track. I think it still has more potential in it, so I'll definitely create a few more tracks before upgrading. But yeah, someday I will clean up this mess and add a synth drum machine to it. I hope this walkthrough was helpful or interesting. If you have any question, feel free to ask. See you later, and until then, remember to feel the